Alrighty, folks, an update on the 2005 Harley Davidson Road Glide. Well, it's not looking great, guys and gals. I want you to see some of the stuff on the floor here. It's kind of hard to see. That's chunks. There's chunks of stuff. Now, the rear exhaust valve is open, so when I blow in here, stuff can blow out the back. The only way I can get stuff out of the top is just blow air in it, and hopefully it just kind of blows out the hole. But look at the nastiness that is coming out of there. All this nastiness everywhere. It's not great at all. Now I'm going to see if I can get you on... Let's just see if I can get you clamped up here somehow. Let's see if you can see what's in here with me. Look at that. The amount of carbon and whatever's on top of that piston. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm trying to look through the camera and see. But there's just a lot of stuff. This is on the rear cylinder here. Front cylinder is obviously quite a bit better. I shouldn't say obviously. The bad part is the pistons, good and bad. The pistons are near the top. And they're probably about that far from the top on the stroke. Now, what have I done so far? Well, I soaked it with Marvel Mystery Oil, a mixture of Marvel Mystery Oil, PB Blaster, and diesel fuel. And I had that in there for well over 3 weeks. I went on vacation for 2 weeks. I came back. I'm trying to move the engine over. I've got my big pull handle and a nut on here. This should all be rotating. Oops, and none of it's rotating. It's stuck. So I've tried moving it back and forth. I've tried using the, if we take the wheel and kind of do one of these numbers to get it a little bit of shock. Hey, there's some movement on that. But see, the compensating sprocket, yeah, that's all I'm moving is the... You're not seeing this move at all. I've never seen an indoor bike that's stored indoors freeze up inside of 365 days. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So that's the only conclusion we could draw, is that possibly something got put in there that shouldn't have been in there, which is probably going to drive us to pull these jugs off anyway, even once it's broke loose. But we're going to try diesel fuel and acetone, squirt that in there, let it soak, and we'll see if that does anything after a few days. I don't have a lot of high hopes at this moment, but the bad part is when it comes to tearing the heads off, I'm pretty sure the tank's got to come off. The intake manifold's obviously got to come off so I can gain access to everything with the tanks being out of the way. I'll watch some videos to see if that's the case, but I'm pretty sure that's the case to give me some working room. Maybe today's the day that things become unstuck. Oh, soaking. So, will you let go of my ego? I have soaked this thing in Marvel Mystery Oil, kerosene, acetone. What was the other thing? Evapo-Rust. I put all kinds of stuff in this cylinder to see if I could get it to break loose. It will not break loose. So now I've got to dig a little deeper. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pull this piece off. We're going to pull the gas tanks off. We're going to pull the intake manifold off. We'll get the horn out of our way. And we'll get to the point where we can actually pull the cylinder heads off. And then we'll pull mainly the valve covers we'll pull off, cylinder heads, and then ultimately the jugs, and see what's going on there. We have a feeling, my buddy and I have a feeling, that what may have happened is his dad's eyesight was going bad, and he may have grabbed fogging oil, thinking he was grabbing fogging oil, but sprayed something else in the cylinder that shouldn't have been sprayed in there, that caused a, let's call it a galvanic reaction, caused the aluminum to oxidize, it shouldn't. For a year in Arizona, kept in a garage, you should never see this kind of corrosion happen. So we have a feeling some other chemical was introduced. We're going to dig into it. The goal of this video is to get it tore down and see what's going on, see whether we're going to have to bore it oversized, put new piston and rings in it, and any other cleaning up we need to do. And then we'll put the top end back together and all the other stuff back on. And we'll see if we can get it running between part 2 and part 3 here. So bear with me. This is going to be a slow process. I've never pulled one of these apart before. Not on the top end on an 05. Now I have had the top end of my 74 Sportster off and worked on a 75 Sportster. Did a lot of engine work on those, so it's all very similar. I had a 98 Ultra Classic Electric Glide that I did a lot of work on that here and there. When I say a lot, I had to replace cams. The cam went out, the lifters went out, and some other stuff. But replaced that, got it back on the road. Had 80-some thousand miles on that bike, so. All right, let's dig in. Let's look. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the Borescope and kind of see if I can get a picture of what it looks like in there for you guys to see. Let's see if I can keep this up close so you guys can see what's going on. This is the rear cylinder, which had the most corrosion on it. And it's going to be hard to see, but the pistons are near the top. I can go down there and touch the piston top, but I can't get enough angle to see the cylinder walls. But this almost, you can see the aluminum piston now. This is a lot of black on top. I blew a lot of carbon out of there from the soaking. There's the front cylinder there. You can see, looks like a cylinder wall maybe over here. Yep. But you can see a lot of piston top here, some cylinder wall, it looks like right here. And you can see just a lot of rust and stuff over here. Now the penetrant stuff and everything I put in it, it did help break down a lot of the stuff. The rear cylinder, it's actually coming up on the exhaust stroke, because the valves open about yay far on the exhaust valve. And I wonder if I can look in through there with this and see up the exhaust hole. Can I? All I can see up in there is the valves opened about that far, and that's it. But it did allow me to run air down through the spark plug hole when I was soaking it and blow a lot of stuff out of the exhaust port. And it was just crumbly black carbon buildup and everything coming out of the exhaust port. So with that being said and that being viewed, we're going to put the Borescope away and we're going to get into it. Alrighty, there wasn't a lot to show there that I could get a lot of detail on, but I'm going to show you right now what I've got. Here I've got the intake manifold loose. I've got it hanging by zip ties from the key switch right now, just to kind of hold it out of the way. May not be good. I unplugged all these wires off of the intake manifold. You got your fuel injection, throttle position sensor. There's just all kinds of, it's modern technology. It's not just a carburetor, And we got that taken off. Well, down here, you're trying to get to these screws here. There's one here on each side. And you see there's a big old rubber O-ring here. That's your intake seal. We'll go around the other side here. I also took the horn mount off. I've been collecting things in these totes. These totes are doing exactly what I intended them to do. So we got the 2 bolts up top here and the 1 cross bolt. So that's what I'm doing with these containers, is I'm putting parts in them as I take them apart. As I fill a container, I'll grab another container's worth of parts. So now we're down to, I pulled the coil pack off. I marked left and right. It looks like the right side coil is the rear cylinder, so the right, rear, left, front. I actually put a little bit of a paint mark on this one here just to remind me. And it looks like you got your head temperature sensor here. Got to be careful not to break that when you're trying to reach in through here to get these bolts loose. Now I was able to get everything done, believe it or not, with just a ball end hex drive wrench. So now we're down to, and then I drop it on the floor. So now we've got this far apart. I'm ready to start taking the cylinder heads off. Now I'd love to relieve the pressure off of the connecting rods. Not the connecting rods, but the push rods. But I can't because the engine's stuck. So I'm just going to be stuck taking it apart with pressure on the valves. So when I go to take the heads off, they're going to probably just lift off. Now, these here, we've got a couple of valve cover bolts here. I started loosening up these. I'm going to take the front one off first so I can see what's going on and to see how much trouble I'm going to have getting the rear off. But you can pull these off with them in the frame, I understand. So let's get after that. Now this, I'm just using my little Hercules 3/8 drive ratchet. Let's go around the other side. There appears to be just 6. And these are 7/16 socket to get these off, it looks like. One more behind here. I'm not sure if all these are the same length. Let's go to this side and see. Looks like the one on the left side of the bike are all shorter, because this valve cover has a little bit of a, if you can see, there's an angle to it here. It goes from thin here to thick on that side. Same way here, thin to thick. And that may be just due to the engineering of being able to get this off in the frame. Wouldn't that be unique? So let's put you back right here and see what I got. Yeah, that valve cover comes right off, no problem. Allows you access to, oh mercy of stuff. Looks like we got head bolts here, 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 and here. And looks like 1 back here, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. I thought I had the recording going. Doggone it. Let me show you what I did so far. I pulled the rocker box off here. There's long bolts for the tall side, short bolts for the short side. You can get that off, and that'll slide out this direction. The next thing is you got this little breather that you want to take loose. The gasket on this was very, very brittle. It's just crumbling into pieces. I mean, that's just it's just breaking. This is your breather that lets your, basically like your valve cover breather. It's got a little diaphragm here, as you can see here, with holes underneath it. There, like that. The idea behind that is it goes up and down, lets the air escape. The oil gets trapped in this little mesh piece here, drains back down in the crankcase. And then there's holes here that were in your air cleaner box, there's hoses that hook into the air cleaner. That's supposed to breathe out of here, out here, get sucked into the intake. It's for emission purposes. Alrighty, now we're getting into some, this is the part that's kind of unfortunate because the engine is stuck and I cannot roll it over. I'd like to take, you'd like to have the backlash, or I shouldn't say backlash, the valve tension off of this rocker, because right now at top dead center you could have it so these things had play in it. You could take these 4 bolts off here. There's 2 that you can't see here where my fingertips are, and these 2 here, and you can back them off, lift this rocker assembly out. But because the engine's stuck, I can't do that, so I'm gonna back these off slowly and carefully and see if I can get them. See if I can get them out without doing any damage. And just give them about a 1/4 turn each. And we're not trying to cause any undue stress on the rocker assembly. Is the goal here by going a little bit at a time. You won't put a lot of twists on it. Once all the bolts get loose, that means you got all the spring tension off. And being that this was so close to the top of a stroke, most of the tension would have been removed anyway. Okay, they're all loose. And the ones just like on this other one, I'm hoping that I can lift it up and get it wiggled out this way. Get them bolts out of there. Is there enough wiggle room? I get the rods out of here. You'll notice there'll be different colors. The black is the exhaust rod, and the silver one will be the intake. See, that was a lot shinier. They are 2 different lengths, so you don't want to get them backwards. Let's see if I can sneak it out of here now. That's out of their way. Come on, baby. You gonna let me? They're so close. There we go. Out. So we got to remember what we did there to put it back in. Now we can loosen up these 6. There's 6 bolts here that hold the bottom part of the valve cover in place. So we can lift that off. We'll be able to get to the other 2 head bolts and be able to get this head off. Alrighty, we got the base out now. Yay. Here I'm just trying to catch the push rod tubes at the same time so I don't drop everything. Oh. Now we're getting our first looks inside here. There is a lot of crestation on here. And this is after everything's been soaked. Well, now that we got these, I can actually rotate this crank and these jugs lift up. But I'm gonna see if I can break the pistons loose by just see if I can drive down on it a little bit. I can get a hit on it. That's gonna be the tough part. I think the only choice I got right now, golly, I'm going to put some more penetrant in here. I don't know how much more you can soak, you know. I'll show you the heads. The head, they both looked about the same. You see all the carbon buildup on here. There's just so much. Now, this has all been softened because I had it soaking. But my goodness, that's bad. I have no idea what would have stuck this so horrible. But we'll let it soak. I cleaned up all the stuff. The cylinders are so pitted. I don't know if you'll be able to see it here. Let me get it. See if I can get a light on it. I don't know if you can see it right in there. Right above the piston, right above that little water line. There are, it's hard to see it, but there's some serious dents and etching going on there. It just ate it up. I don't know how well this is going to show up. I'm looking on the little screen here, so. But yeah, there's some, I don't know if 10 thou oversized or 20 thou oversized will even clean that up. My initial goal was to get these jugs off of there, possibly bore them out to 10 or 20 over if needed. New pistons and rings, clean up the heads, relap the valves, and bring her back together, but at a standstill till I can get these pistons to move. Now here you can see I can actually get I can lift the jugs up. You see how they move right there? See that seam? Trying to get you on it. See that seam? I can close it up, open it up here. So the crank moves with ease. And by me knowing that I'm pushing down on this handle, that I'm going down, pulling this down, it means I'm pulling the cylinders down, and I should be able to get them to go down to the cylinder, but I think my only choice is to soak it some more. See if we can get that knocker loose to get down in there, hopefully. I don't know, my goodness. Well, hopefully I'm gonna work on this for the next week and see what I gotta do to get these things to move so I can get these jugs off. Otherwise, this brings things to a screaming halt. And I don't know what else to do at this point, but let her soak. Yeah. Wow. This is just bad. It's just, I've never seen anything that bad that stuck that was not exposed to the elements. This was kept in a garage, well kept. And this engine got ate up. Okay. We'll be back when I have more news, I guess. The other thing I've been doing is I'm keeping everything, like the rear cylinder here is in a tote. And obviously got the gas tank sitting in a tote right now. But I got the front cylinder assembly and push rods and everything in a tote with all its bolts. Then I got the dash panel, air cleaner, and stuff like that in a tote. That's why I wanted these totes in this manner, is that I could take things down, put them in totes, keep them, and I put a lid on it, and keep them in the condition that they came off. Then when I'm ready to start putting things back together, I can start cleaning things up, put them back in a clean tote, and work forward from there. Trying to be a little organized. I'm trying. Oh, well, I was really hoping by the time I got that loose and I banged on a little bit that they would just break loose with a little bit of shock, but that is not the case so far. Cross your fingers for me, folks. Alrighty, folks. Days later, obviously, wind is blowing. It was a high of 55 today in Iowa in January, which is very unusual, but it was the calm before the storm. And not necessarily a storm coming through, but we got a cold front coming through that's going to drop it down to like 1 or -1 tomorrow morning, by tomorrow morning. So 55 degree swing, 56 degree swing. But I'm out here in the shop, and let me catch you up to what I've tried to do, and I've had no luck. So as you can see here, it's still stuck. What I did is I rotated the engine backwards here. So I've lifted this jug up. This jug will only come up this high because this piston was only that far from below being at the top. This one, obviously, I got about half a stroke on it. I wire wheeled everything out. I've soaked it with knocker loose, and I don't know. This is let's just call it an exercise and a little bit of frustration. I really want to salvage this thing as much as possible, but it's not helping. I've actually took this piston right here, and I've had my 3 pounds hammer putting pressure on the breaker bar on this compensating sprocket, pushing down and rapping on it to see if I get just the jar loose, and it would not. Now, I'm going to show you something. This is not for the squeamish. It's terrible at best. Now what I'm going to try to get you to see here is I'm going underneath the cylinder, behind the piston. See if I can get a shot at some of this. It's not easy. But as you can see here, that's right behind the piston. And look at the corrosion that's around the bottom edge of the piston. It is the whole piston. Try a different angle here. It's like down the full skirt of the piston has corrosion all the way to the bottom of it. As you can see there's some of the crosshatch there. And we'll go up to behind the piston here. Come on. It's hard to get a shot on this. But right there in the middle, you can see that seam, that rusty seam in the middle. Right there. It's just got that kind of corrosion all the way around the piston. And that's all around the bottom side. So to get this thing to break loose is going to be tough because the whole, and I can't get this rear one up far enough to see it, but I can't help but think it's similar. So my next effort, I think, is going to be, and there again, this is where I'm ending this video, because what I want to do is get these back down onto the base, and I'm going to build a plate that fits right on top of these pistons here, on top of this head or jug, and I'm going to use the factory bolts to hold this piece of steel down, and I'm going to have a bolt that I can screw down in there and push down on these pistons to see if I can mechanically put enough pressure on both of them at the same time to get them to move and break that bond that's in the cylinder. Folks, no illusions about this. The jugs are probably junk. The pistons are junk, for sure. I mean, at this point, I'm looking at jugs and pistons replacement on this particular engine. This has turned into a little more than a starter repair, a starter replacement that it started off to be. If any of you guys have ever seen anything like this, I have soaked it with every witch oil that I can put in there that has been recommended by people, suggestions. I did searches, and nothing is penetrating past that corrosion layer that is down past the rings on the cylinder wall itself. So this one really has me stumped, but I'm not giving up. I will get it apart because the bottom end is still fine. And the bottom end moves freely like it should, but the top end and the piston and the cylinder walls are completely toast. It's too bad this had to happen on a bike that only had 30,000 miles. But when I see what's behind the piston and up against the cylinder walls, up and around the cylinder wall, I am now more convinced than ever that something got introduced into the cylinder that shouldn't have been there, and it worked past the rings in its nice liquid form when everything was clean. It worked past the rings and then had its reaction, and it's just, you know, let's just say chemically welded that piston to the cylinder walls. So I'm going to probably break a piston, destroy a piston. I might destroy the jugs. I don't know. Time will tell. So stay tuned, folks. Part 3 coming soon. Hopefully part 3 I'll have the jugs off of there, and I'll have a video on how I got those apart and got them off. And I'll be with new jugs, pistons and stuff, and we'll be going back together, and we'll see this 05 Road Glide beat back to life again, and we'll go from there. Man, I just wish it didn't have to be like this, but things happen, life happens, and we're gonna make it work again. I'm not giving up on it. So we'll be back in a few weeks on this thing. I've got plenty of other stuff I'll be working on. I appreciate you, everybody that's been watching, liking, subscribing. It's been amazing. You guys are awesome. Don't be afraid to leave comments. Don't be afraid to throw me that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, think about doing so. So you get notified, and ring that bell, you know, so you get notified next time I drop a video. But we got that project going. I've got another project going right now where I'm working on my 07 Jeep Liberty. More video to come on that. A little sneak preview. This is all something happened here. I know what happened there, but we're gonna bring her back better than ever. Okay, we're gonna do something to it. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Don't forget to get your 1 hour a day in every day to move your project forward and feel like you got something accomplished every day. You just can't beat that feeling of moving a project forward. You don't want your projects to become stagnant. I have a lot of irons in the fire. I keep trying to move a little bit forward every day on something, and we just keep having it. You guys have been doing a lot of guessing on what this engine is here. I'm still not going to tell you. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to drag it out. I'm not trying to belabor the point. But I got to get this Harley out of my way. I got to get this Jeep out of my way. And then I want to work on that engine. Those are two projects that are hanging over my head. I want to get out of my way so I can focus on that engine and keep the guesses coming, folks. Nobody's got it right so far. If you've been reading the comments, nobody's gotten it right so far. Actually, most guesses are quite a ways off from what it really is. So, but it's been fun. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Be kind to one another. And remember, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. This is Michael, and I'm out.